all throughout the semester, and I really want to encourage you to use those tests as study aids. And the questions on the essays in particular should focus you towards what I think is an important feature of that period and also of the Bible in general. So I really think that rather than giving you a handout that duplicates all that we've talked about in the past, which is impossible and will be limited and will only tell you what I'm going to test you on, I really think you should study your past tests. In particular, I think you should study the parts of the tests where the IDs and the plots and theologies, and correct where you made mistakes in the past, right? So it would be instructive to make sure that on the past tests where you've gotten things wrong, you don't make that mistake in the future. Secondly, your Complete Bible Handbook is an incredible resource. If you have not been doing the reading in it, that was dumb, but you can do it now. In particular, I would encourage you to do work in the Complete Bible Handbook where you know you have weaknesses. So where you think, I don't really understand X, the handbook probably has an entry on it. And it's probably very good, because that's what we are using it for text. So I really want to encourage you, use the handbook. If, for example, you're like, I never understood Isaiah, there's 3 different entries on Isaiah in here that would be worth looking at. If you didn't understand prophecy in general, then really I encourage you to look there. If there's stories about the life and ministry of Jesus that you didn't understand as you read it, there are entries in here all about it. So use the handbook. Finally, or additionally, I will hold a study session where I'll be present to answer questions for you. It will be on Tuesday night. It will be in this place, and it will be, sort of all study hall long, maybe even, and then whatever, was our exam on Tuesday? Yeah. Then Monday night.
No.
Wednesday.
What other exam do we have?
Oh,
yeah, you're right. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So Tuesday night, the night before the exam, I'll be here. I want to warn you that that is a place to bring questions. It cannot be your only review. I'm going to answer any questions that you have, but if the questions are on topics that are not on the test, because it's not going to be helpful to you, right? And I'm not going to answer the question, will this be on the test? I just won't do that. That's crazy. But I'll answer any questions that you do have that are, focused in nature and that are worthwhile. And I'll also say things like, that's a level of detail you don't need, or what are you talking about? Or that comes from a different class. So, I will do that. I also will give you the exam essay question well in advance, probably tonight or tomorrow. And like all the other exam essay questions, the essay question is meant to be integrative, pull together different thoughts. And I really would encourage you to write it before the exam. Like, I know that in the past I've given you a day after the test to write it, and I've always said, it might be smart to write this before. Now I'm really telling you, like, the writing of the essay is really going to help you pull together your thoughts in advance of the exam. And if you write it in the exam period, that is inviting a stress and a burden on you that is crazy. You could take 2 hours over the weekend, write the essay, and kill it. Yep.
Oh, really?
Yep. No, it's not going to be 9 sentences.
Oh, that would so.
I can't do the whole Bible in 9 sentences. The whole course. I'll give it to you. It will be directive. Like, as soon as I'm certain I want to do it again.
So we can print it out and bring it.
Yes. You need your computer for the exam.
Wait, so just giving us I was confused on the format. Like, you're giving us.
I'll give you straightforward directions on how I want it formatted. Like, in the past, I have asked for a 6-paragraph essay where each paragraph has a particular place and time, a particular focus, and I outline it so that it's pretty idiot-proof. No offense to anyone, but either 6 different historic time periods, 6 different topics where I ask you boom, boom, boom. And so within each paragraph, there's at least 3 to 5 sentences, right? So it's not a small essay, but it's also not a question like,
That's not that.
hey, who is God? 6 paragraphs, please. Right?
They did it in your lesson.
So it will not be opinion based, and it will not be totally free form. I will give you guiding questions and an inherent structure.
Are you gonna tell us the format?
Yeah, it's going to be just like your old tests. There'll be some new stuff. I mean, there's matching, which you've never had before, but there's matching. There's fill in the blank. There's plot and theology. There's IDs. There'll be document-based questions.
Will we ever blast a study from?
Yeah, I've said that already. I said I'm going to give you the prophecy test back. Like, I'm working on it. You will not get to the weekend without getting that test back. If I don't give it back to you in class, I'll put it in your mailbox. You will have it. I promise. Like, that would be unfair. But, definitely use it to study from. Right? Any new questions? All right, let's move on to miracles. I want you all to think about miracles. Sorry, I got annoyed. Sorry, but I feel like I answered it a couple times. I want you to think about miracles the same way I want you to think about everything else in the Gospel of Mark, and actually the other Gospels. But it's more obvious in Mark than in the others. I really think miracles are connected to the concept of the kingdom of God. Can you imagine a way in which they are connected? Can you make a connection between miracles and the kingdom of God?
Or it's a way of God showing what peace is, or what it is.
Or like what the
Okay.
it's like
Okay,
if like the kingdom of God was like actually relevant, like what would happen.
relevant or present?
Or like present, yeah.
Yes, I really, really strongly feel that the miracles expose and show the value of the kingdom, the values of the kingdom in everyday life. More than that, I would say that the miracles are moments when the kingdom of God is made fully present in the present for that person. That makes sense? So it's not just an educational tool. It's like when the kingdom of God encounters the world is changed. So it's sort of like holiness in that regard, right? When God's holiness encounters unholiness, when God's justice encounters injustice, when God's presence encounters the world, it's not a leave no trace encounter. The world is changed. What happens in the case of holiness? If God's holiness encounters unholiness, right?
Oh, like it's
So unholiness is destroyed in the face of the holiness of God. When God's justice encounters injustice, what happens? Justice happens. God is justifying the world in his encounters. So when the kingdom of God, which seeks to be a kingdom of peace, justice, love, mercy, kindness, joy, all of those things, when the kingdom of God, all good things, when the kingdom of God encounters the sinfulness of and the reality of suffering, illness, hunger, poverty, death, that changes. See what I'm saying? Known me, burn. Oh yeah, Gonzalez said that. I don't understand this. She had a good chart. She likes charts. I wish I used more charts. That would be good. All right, so that's what happens. Let's talk about how not necessarily by what means miracles happen. But let's talk about the narrative of how these things occur. So let's look at any miracle. You guys can pick any miracle that you want to look at.
Walking on water.
Let's not do that one. Let's do a miracle that involves, okay, feeding the 5,000, feeding the 4,000. All right, that's a short one, right? So where's that? Is it who touches Jesus? Is it the woman restored to life?
If I had like touch the photo as well.
So where's that? Where's that?
Verse 28.
Of all right, this is a short miracle story. It's a good one. All right, so let's look at that.
So it says, verse 29.
Right.
It says verse 29.
She had heard about Jesus. Read that to us.
She had heard about Jesus and came up behind him and cried and touched his clothes. For she said, if I but touch his clothes, I will be made well. Immediately the
Hemorrhage.
hemorrhage stopped, and she thought in her body that she was healed.
Okay, so let's talk about how this miracle happens, the order of events, and see if it's true for other miracles as well. Right? So, what happens? What's required here? What's that? Okay, so person with faith, right? Does what?
Just touches him.
Okay, comes, goes, encounters Jesus, right? Touch, gesture, word, right? There's an encounter with Jesus, right? So, for example, this is the story of someone going out of their way to go to Jesus. Otherwise, Jesus sometimes comes to them, right? Or sometimes friends bring them to Jesus, right? But somehow you got to get Jesus and sick person together, right? So, person with faith comes and encounters Jesus, then what? Is changed. In this case, healed, right? Now, this basic pattern is also true of the feedings, right? Who is gathered around Jesus to hear him speak? People with faith, right? Doing an act of faith, coming to Jesus, right? They come to Jesus, Jesus does something, and they are changed, fed. Right? How about the demons? Right? So again, right? Person with faith, the Gerasene demoniac. The Gerasene demoniac, or the other demoniac, they recognize Jesus as the Messiah. So there's a recognition of Jesus' messianic nature. An encounter with Jesus, and a change occurs. Right? This is a very basic pattern, but I bet we could say it's true for everything except the nature miracles, walking on water, the calming of the storm. Right? Notice what this is not. It is not that. Person with no faith demands a sign. Jesus performs the sign act. Person believes. This is absolutely not what it is. Right? In every case, faith in God or in Jesus as Messiah precedes the miraculous event that occurs. In every case. So, what does that suggest about if this is related to the kingdom? You know, what
I think he needs like people to believe first, rather.
he needs?
Or the people need to believe first before they can see the kingdom of God. Like they can't
Yeah.
just like, all right, I'll see it once I, or like I'll believe it once I see it.
Right. You know, another way of thinking about this might be that you need to already be a citizen of the kingdom by choice, by faith, in order to receive the benefits of the kingdom. That make sense? So you can't come in half measures and be like, I may be in, I may be out. Do something for me and I'll be in. No, it's like, no, I'm in already. So these are, the miracles are contained within the sort of concept of citizenship of the kingdom. And, you know, they prove that you're in a way. And who gets them? Simon's mother, blind people, lepers who come to Jesus, the paralytic whose friends bring him to Jesus, the hungry who are gathered to listen to the words of Jesus. I want to connect this in your mind as well to the prophetic tradition. In particular, Hosea and Jeremiah and Elijah, right? We've seen multiplication of food before. When?
In the
Oh, also with Isaiah too, or not Isaiah.
period of
Yeah, Elijah. Yeah.
All right, so in the Exodus, for sure, there's this feeding from heaven, the manna in the wilderness, right? And what's interesting is that in the Exodus, the manna in the wilderness is kind of almost more miraculous than this, because in the multiplication of loaves, it's that they have some, and Jesus makes it more, right? Makes it enough. In the manna, they have nothing, but God provides it. So there's a slight difference, but I think you're meant to hear or feel a connection with the manna in the wilderness. But what's on your lap? Nothing? No, you okay? You have a
Yeah,
headache?
I'm just like looking at it.
Okay. No, I'm just worried about you. It's like you're either reading something else or really concentrating. I'm just wondering. Okay. But Elijah and the widow of Zarephath, remember her?
Yeah.
Where he lives with her and he says, you know, feed me, and she does, and the food doesn't run out. The oil in the temple for Hanukkah, right? So there's some kind of connection to the prophetic period. So Jesus' actions here are more than just actions for, you know, ex-widow. They're meant to also be understood as the prophetic action about the reign of God that is coming. Does that make any sense? And so the reign of God that is coming is the reign of restoration, healing, and sort of abundance. I would suggest. What do you think? Does that make sense? Let's look at two.
Well, has that right already happened, or are we like waiting?
It's the same. It's under the same conditions as everything else. It's already begun. It's not yet here. So, just to put a different point on this, right? So, we haven't finished the gospel, but there's a point at which Jesus commissions disciples and says, you do what I've done. We read about the 70 who go out in a healing mission with the same power, right? But also, after the ascension, Jesus says, you do this, I'm out. So there's a sense in which whenever a Christian, by any means, feeds, heals, clothes, restores, cares for nature, they're continuing the work of Jesus. Right? Maybe not by miraculous means, you know, the changing of the rules of physics and all that, but like anytime a doctor treats a patient and brings them from illness to health, they have done in some small way what Jesus was doing then. Anytime you, through an act of kindness, feed a hungry person, you are doing in some small way what Jesus was doing in his mission and ministry. So there's a sense in which what the church is supposed to be doing, the community of the faithful, the living kingdom of God in the present, they're supposed to be carrying and continuing this missionary activity out. Which is why 90% of hospitals were founded by religious groups. Hospital comes from, it's a religious idea. The first hospital was in Jerusalem during the Crusades to treat those injured in the crusade as an act of Christian charity. They could die with some dignity or perhaps find healing. Right? So, this is all Christian principles sort of borne out in reality. And I want to kind of make that connection sort of explicit, perhaps, in your mind. Let's look at an interesting one, which sort of proves this point a little bit. Chapter 6 of Mark. This is an interesting passage.
Did it show that John the Baptist died to show like he's not the Messiah?
Right. That's probably the case, yeah. Right, but there was no sense in which there was no promise that Elijah would ascend again. Right? The idea was that Elijah ascended into heaven, would come back and point out the Messiah, but wouldn't be it, and maybe ascend into heaven, or maybe just point out the Messiah and get out of the way. Right? So John the Baptist, that's a horrible story, by the way. The story of the death of John the Baptist, because that Herod is really gross, and it's only because his daughter dances for him lasciviously, his daughter, that he's willing to kill John the Baptist, because he ultimately is so wound up and he's like, I'll do anything you want. It's gross, yeah, it's a gross story. And Herod's wife, who was Herod's brother's wife first, takes advantage of the opportunity to have John killed because she doesn't like John. Because John's always going and telling them how they're sinning. But Herod likes John. It's a weird story. Herod likes to have John around. He likes to be told he's a bad guy. So he likes John, but not Herodias. She does not like John.
Her name is Herodias?
Yeah, she does not
Why
like
does
that.
she not like John?
She doesn't like to be told that she's wrong. They have a difference of opinion on that score. Perhaps. What a man loves a woman. All right, chapter 6. Philip, why don't you read this to us? Chapter 6, beginning at verse 1.
He left that place and came to his home. His disciples followed him. On the Sabbath, he began to teach in the synagogue. And then he heard him for a Sabbath.
Now, if you notice, that's a pattern, right? Jesus, this is Jesus' typical missionary pattern. He goes to a town, he goes to the synagogue, he teaches in the synagogue. Like who? Who does that? Rabbis, right? So this is one of those things where he's identifying in a way with this rabbinic tradition because he's using the synagogue as a kind of base of operations. So when people call him rabbi, it's because they think he is one. He's an itinerant rabbi. He goes from town to town preaching in the synagogues. It's not a huge surprise that they would call him rabbi. It's not a huge surprise that the Pharisees would think he was one of them, right? Have you noticed the tension with the Sadducees throughout? Yeah. They ask, why do you eat with unwashed hands? And he says, well, it's not what goes into you that defiles, it's what comes out of you. Why do you work on the Sabbath? He said, well, humankind is not made, the Sabbath is made for humankind, not humankind for the Sabbath. And then another time they ask him about questions they don't believe in, and he blows off the questions. And, they're really getting annoyed by him, right? So you got the Pharisees kind of being supportive in a way, and then the Sadducees who are really annoyed. And we'll see that gets worse. Read on, Phil.
They said, why did this man...
Who says? Just before we read on, they said. Who's they?
The
The crowds. The crowds of the synagogue in Nazareth, right? They said, go on.
They said, where did this man get all this? What is the wisdom that has been given him? What deep the power of being done by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, and brother of James, and
Joseph.
Joseph, and Judas, and Simon, and I, sister with us, to offense at him.
All right, pause. Right. So, what are the crowds in Nazareth saying? Why?
It's like he's a carpenter's son, and like and then like his background doesn't match that of a Messiah.
Right, because they know him too well. Right? They know him very well. They're like, we remember when you were a child. Look, I remember you were a child. I know your mother and your brothers and sisters. Like, you're not some miraculous messianic figure. Like, you killed my dog. You set fire to, you did whatever. Like, I remember that time that you knocked over, I was working on something and you knocked it over. Do you remember that? That's not what the Messiah does. Like, you're a little shit. Like, there's no way. It's like if you go home, if you notice this when you go home, you've been at boarding school, something's changed, you go home and your parents like thinking you're the same person that they sent to boarding school. And in fact, you're not the same. Because you've had experience between then and now. You've changed. But parents are sometimes really unwilling to be like, yeah, I guess you have changed. They're like, no, you're the same girl I raised. You're the same boy I raised. Like, don't give me that. You have different thoughts than me. That's not allowed. Does that happen to you?
No.
Yeah.
My parents like
They're cool.
Yeah, good show.
Well, it hasn't happened yet. It will happen when you go to college. Right? It will happen. So there's a disconnect here. They're like, no, this is not the Messiah because we know him. And then what's the result? He says, prophets are not without honor, except in their hometowns. Like, prophets, people go all over and prophesy, and when they go home, no one thinks they're a prophet because they're too well known. So what is Jesus saying about himself, by the way? He's a prophet, okay? So Jesus sees himself as a prophet. He probably also sees himself as a rabbi. Here he is teaching in the synagogue. That's what rabbis do. But functionally, he sees himself as both a rabbi and a prophet. Verse 5. First half.
Now many can do no deed of power there except that.
Let's stop there. Right? Before you go on to the except, I really distrust the second half of that phrase. I really, really trust the first half of that phrase. And he could do no deed of power there. Why not? Because he didn't believe in his hometown. They don't believe he's the Messiah. They don't get the benefits.
So is the only time Jesus has power is if people believe in him?
No, that's not. Jesus always has power, but he's unable. The power that Jesus has is only for the use of those who believe.
So if they're like,
So Jesus does not necessarily choose who he's going to heal and who he's not. That comes from the fact that you come to Jesus in faith, right? So if you come to Jesus in faith, Jesus heals you. He doesn't discriminate, except in the case of the Syrophoenician woman. So, this is chapter 7, verse 24. So on the one hand, you've got this story of Jesus going home. He is the Messiah. He wants to do deeds of power. He can't do deeds of power because they're not paying attention to, they're not trusting that he's the Messiah. In chapter 7, beginning at 24, you have a different case, which is where someone comes to Jesus, wants Jesus to do deeds of power, but he doesn't want to do them for her. So, Lauren, 7:24, please. Chapter 7, verse 24.
From there he set out and went away to the region of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know he was there, that he could not escape notice, but a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit immediately heard about him when he came and found out. Now the woman was a Gentile of Syrophoenicia.
Orange. Pause. This is an important feature of the story. It's a woman. We've seen lots of women. Okay? So being a woman is not a problem. What is a problem? She's a Gentile. Gentile is the people who are not Jews. So the rest of his ministry has been amongst Jews. That's why he goes to synagogues and people bring sick people. Like non-Jews don't go to synagogue, right? So this whole 1 to 7, whole first chapter part of this ministry, Jesus has been doing these miracles for people who have faith in the kingdom of God and are a subset of the universe, which is to say, Jews.
Oh, so he can only heal Jews.
No, but he has only been healing Jews. This is the interesting moment. But a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit, now the woman was Syrophoenician origin, she begged him, the woman, begged him to cast the demon out of her daughter. But Jesus said to her, "Let the children be fed first, for it's not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." So who are the children?
Our people.
Whose people? Jesus' people. The Jews.
So he's saying like, why didn't he like?
Yeah, you're a dog, is what he's saying. He's saying, no, I'm not going to heal your daughter because you're a dog. But she says, "Sir, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." In other words, look, I fully appreciate that you're here to serve the Jews only. And I'm willing to admit I'm not Jewish. And because in your view I'm not Jewish, I'm a dog, which is racist. But admit it, there's usually even some scraps for the dog when you have a banquet like this. Sort of saying like, is there really a limit to your power? You can't also heal my daughter. Just a crumb, Jesus. Just a crumb. And he says, "For saying that, you may go. The demon has left your daughter."
Isn't that
It's that. She has faith. She has faith in Jesus. That Jesus can heal her daughter. The difference is, she's not on the inside circle. She's not a Jew with faith. She's a Gentile with faith. And the whole mindset of Jesus and everyone else would be, no, the kingdom of God is at least Jews, and maybe at most Jews, right? Maybe it's a subset of Jews, but like, we're in a covenant relationship with the Jews. Why would then a Gentile receive the benefits? The Gentile woman says, "There's no reason I shouldn't receive the benefits. I have faith in you." And Jesus says, "You're right." And so he heals her daughter. He's able to heal her daughter. And this is a moment, the way I read this story, maybe just me, the way I read this story is, this is a moment when Jesus begins to understand the breadth of his missionary activity, that it's not simply for Jews alone.
So it's inclusive.
Now, but see, the interesting part was like, the only reason that it wasn't inclusive before was that Jesus wasn't willing to be inclusive. But Jesus realizes in this encounter, wait, I can be inclusive.
Like the ladies on
Yeah. Either you are the Messiah or you're not the Messiah. Which is it? He says, "Oh, you're right. You're in. You're in the kingdom." So the kingdom now has gone from, so you've got Jews, subset of which are in the kingdom. And you've got Jews, subset of which are in the kingdom, Gentiles also. Nope, just ones who have saving faith in Jesus. Right? That still precedes, citizenship in the kingdom is based, it seems, on the faith. Believing that God is trying to break into the world. Expanded. Yeah, because the Abrahamic covenant is in effect. Right? Here now it seems like Jesus is offering new access to the covenant to people who otherwise have been excluded. So it's just not exclusive.
So it's anyone who believes?
Seems like it. It absolutely seems to be. Right? In the mind of Jesus. Now, it's going to take some time for the disciples to get on board. But it seems to be. Do I have like 50 seconds? All right, look at the story of Jesus curing the blind man at Bethsaida. This is chapter 8, which I maybe haven't read yet. You read it. 8. Look at 22, 25. This is an interesting story. What happens here?
At first you like mess it up or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First is an impartial healing, then it's a full healing. I think that's interesting to me. You know, we
That's where
assume
trees are. Look like
we must have gone blind. All right, I just wanted to point that out. Like, first, Jesus' healing is not complete. It's not because the man's faith isn't right. It's just, I don't know, it's an incomplete healing. All right, I want to point out, we didn't actually say this, but there are at least 4 types of miracles. Healings, and I'd say restorations are part of that. Exorcisms, which is spiritual healing. Multiplication or feeding. And then nature. Right? Nature miracles. And each one of these is a habit of restoration or some sort of healing act, right? But healing of people and restoring people to health, healing of spiritual illness, feeding the hungry, so healing scarcity, and restoring nature to balance where it's out of balance. This is important. You should be hearing like Eden, themes of Eden, themes of the Exodus, themes of the Sinai to the prophets, spirit, the Jesus' power over natural and supernatural forces. There's a lot going on there. All of it's related to the kingdom of God. Sorry we're in such a rush.
you're great right now.
Crucifixion is tonight. In your reading, obviously not. I'm not gonna.
Volunteer share.
We're ready to.
Please, when you're reading chapter 16, only read to verse 8.
Sorry.
Mr. Grassi.
I had a question.
You have the other part? The short answer part?
I guess.
Remember, there are 2 parts to every test. There's the short answer part and then the essay part.
Right, this is the short answer.
But that's the entire part.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So your
what
work.
was my essay?
I mean, that's what I don't know. Just when I made the mistake of trying to clean up my canvas, as I mentioned before, like I inadvertently erased a whole bunch of stuff, but I have the grades. I can look on a spreadsheet that I had separately and tell you what your raw score on the essay was, but it was overall, that grade.
Because that's my exact test score too. So I was
Then you must have gotten the exact same percentage of points on the essay that you got on the
Okay.
rest of the test. So I would guess that you had an 81 on the essay.
got it. Thank you.
Did you mean?
Animate.
Yeah, of course. Always. Something I get to benefit from. That's cool. What's that for?
Just thinking about it and made it as a visualization, like the standard criticism of cartoon templates, just for the blabbermouths. Listen, read carefully.
That's cool.
Talking at its smallest fraction.
Yeah.
I think that's accurate
It should be.
for an individual.
I mean, that's what it should be.
Yes.
But also different. The thing about blabbermouths is, like it's pretty clear that Baines, for example, learns by putting a position out there
Yes.
and then seeing if it's right.
Yes.
So she's trying on an intellectual position.
Yes.
It's not just that she's undisciplined. Like she's
That's
learning.
right.